So, High School Raindrops is about the synopsis is a young girl named How How ends up staying at a paranormal high school after following a spirit into the woods. Obviously. The other teenagers there seem to be about as shy and lonerish as her, but the same spirit that led her there encourages her to make friends, a task that is much easier here than in the real world, since How How possesses the unique ability to talk to other people's personal spirits. How How was worried that her family might look for her, but the man in the hood, Jim, assures her that time works differently here. What's the harm in staying a while longer? I remember being a little disappointed with the ending. I didn't get quite where I wanted to. That I mildly remember. But when I was reading this to myself a month or two ago, I thought it was really good. I did. I was actually really proud of it. So, yeah, I'm excited to read this one. A girl walks down black pavement. Dark hair, pale in complexion, wearing a typical brown school uniform, Mary Jane shoes, and big round glasses. All the way out here, it looks like there's nothing for miles in either direction. Just her, the road, and the occasional car that passes by. And the forest beyond. It's so early that not even the sun has made an appearance yet. Even so, How How knows that today will be a terrible day. Wow. She just moved here. The young girl hadn't made any friends back home anyway, but it was more than here, and she already missed her old route. She used to go down the street and onto the subway, now she had a 5-mile walk in front of her. At least it was quieter, she was supposed. It was nice that there were no other people, talking was always so hard for her. What if she did something wrong? Stared a little too long or said something weird? It was easier not to talk at all, in her mind. Hard relate to that. Hard relate. Okay. She hung her head, pretending to fade away from the world. I love being dramatic in writing. Okay. And then her head popped up. She thought she heard a noise like raindrops, but as she held out her hands to check, she didn't feel a single splash of water. She looked around. That says looks around. I'm gonna fix it. This might already be obvious. I probably should have started with this. Because it was a contest entry, and I found out about it in the middle of the contest. Like, you were supposed to have, I think, 2 or 3 months to write 50,000 words. I had a month because I found out about it late. Anyway, this is very first drafty. From the distance, she spotted something. A thing, floating in the air. White, fuzzy ball of light amongst the darkness of the cheery branches, with a tail of sorts. What was that? The thing smiled. It couldn't be a plant, but it also wasn't like any animal she'd ever heard of either. It seemed to be beckoning her forward. I forget if I ever explain what I'm trying to describe here. I'm gonna say it right now just in case, but I was going for like the spirits look like rain dolls. How How took a step forward only for it to turn away from her. It ran into the trees, and How How went after it. Curiosity spurred her. She wanted to know what that thing was. If she didn't know better, she would have said it was made of cloth. It looked like a fuzzy blanket. What could it be? It led her deeper and deeper, and soon she lost sight of it entirely. She stopped and sat by a stone by the river. She tried to listen for it, but rushing water filled the air. It had gotten away, it seemed, and How How looked up. She realized she had no idea where she came from. She was lost. Just as she was about to panic and try to retrace her steps, a man in a canoe passed by. Yep, that's normal here, probably. Sir, can you tell me where I am? How How asked. That seems very bold for a girl I was describing as shy and didn't like talking. I'm seeing many things I want to rewrite. Okay, sorry. Reading right now. The boat stopped. The man in the hood faced her, but she couldn't make out an inch of his face. A black aura seemed to cover it. She might have been scared, but the voice that came from him was entirely normal. Friendly, even. You're lost? I'm gonna put he asked. I feel like that's not clear. Yes, I She wasn't sure how to describe the fuzzy thing, and it dawned on her that it sounded very much like she was a stupid young girl that chased after a butterfly into the woods mindlessly. And, well, that is pretty much what happened, but she didn't say that to a stranger. Now that I'm reading it out loud, I'm seeing all the spelling errors. He nodded. You must be trying to get to school. Yeah. Let me take you. It's past this river and over the lake. Really? Yes. Voices are going to be harder for this one. There are a lot more voices here. It's only just now occurred to me that I should definitely be doing some type of voice for them. How didn't know her new school was by a lake. She didn't remember seeing one on the map. I'm gonna remove the word nearby. She didn't remember seeing one on the map, but she was new. She probably just didn't see it or something. She asked, shyly, it wouldn't be out of the way for you. I'm going to the school. It's no trouble at all. And so How took... Whoops. And so How took the man's hand, it was surprisingly cold, as he helped her into the boat. The man used a long wooden stick to paddle with. They were off within a few moments. He asked her, so, are you new around here? Yes. Where were you before? Across the sea. Ah. I do that a few times in this book. I just say, How and one other student are supposed to be foreigners from different places. And because I wanted this to be a fantasy, I didn't have time to build like fictional names or anything. So I end up saying weirdly vague things like I'm from across the sea. Obviously. The boat moved at a good speed, faster than she expected. Maybe she wouldn't even be late, which was a negative in her mind. She wanted to be late. The trees seemed to grow taller as they went, blocking the little amount of sunlight that was showing this early morning. Just as she was about to relax, she felt the entire world shift. It felt like she was turned upside down, and when the feeling subsided, she felt herself soaking wet. Wait, what just happened? Sorry, forgot to warn you about the waterfall. There was a waterfall? How? Whoops, she's not saying that part. How? Where? How come she didn't see it when she looked back where they had just come from? So it felt like they went for a waterfall, but you couldn't see it at all. Not an inch. A long pause, and then the man answered, yes. As she wrung out her uniform of water, she noticed something strange. Was her uniform darker than before? It seemed fully black now. She could have sworn it was brown before, but maybe it was just too dark to make out the color. A fog rolled in, and the base of the river opened up into a body of water. This seemed to be the lake he mentioned before. The fog wasn't so thick as she couldn't tell. That sentence is wrong. I'm trying to think one should just remove that sentence. She looked through the water and saw the fish and sea kelp below. Her eyes went wide as she thought she saw a human. At first she was going to shout for the man in the hood to stop and look, but then as the figure passed, she saw a tail. Was that a mermaid? Rubbing her eyes, the figure was gone. See something? He asked. Ah, no, nothing. Just the fish, she said, thinking she must be going crazy. They passed through the open lake, seeing all sorts of sights on the way. Schools of fish with stripes, and lily pads with frogs, seahorses and crabs too. But she didn't see that mermaid again. She reminded herself that mermaids didn't exist. Eventually, they came to a mossy section. It grew all over the water, and though it didn't seem to stop their travel, it made it impossible to see below the water. I've spelled water with 2 T's here. How's eyes shifted to land. Street lamps that shined blue allowed her sight into the forest past the fog. Despite how much darker it was here, the trees almost seemed brighter. Squirrels scuttled around the forest floor with nuts in their cheeks. That's cute. What is this place? What is this place? These are the mystical woods, he said. How was in awe, and he added, "It looks pretty now, but be careful when it's dark. There are some big animals in there you wouldn't want to face." That's not creepy at all, thank you, Jim. She nodded, and she couldn't see why he mentioned that. She had no plans of coming out to the school at night, unless she saw the white fuzzy thing, but even then she vowed to herself she wouldn't get lost again trying to keep up with it. If she did see it, she'd approach quietly. About 10 minutes later, they reached a wooden dock. Lamps of blue lit it just like the forest before, and she could make out a silhouette of the school in the distance, on top of the hill, single story, smaller than her other school, and smaller than she expected, too. That had to be only one building, she realized. It might very well be a very large school still, just hidden right above and beyond what she could see, and the dread set in all over again. I feel like I didn't explain that real well. Did I say anywhere in that paragraph that this is like... It's like on a hill. So when I say she couldn't... there's a chance she just couldn't see how big it was. I mean, because she's like below on a dock. School's on a hill. The man in the hood helped her out. He said, "What's your name?" Why didn't he ask that sooner? "Oh, how," she whispered. Let me whisper it. "Oh, maybe I shouldn't actually whisper it. I have not testing whispering in this mic." "Oh, how," she whispered. Embarrassed. He took her all the way here, and she hadn't even asked for his name. She attempted to speak, but it only came out in a light whisper. "Thank you, Jim." "No problem. Have a good day." "You too," she tried to say, but the words didn't come. He started to tie the ship down. How stepped away and pulled her backpack in front of her, looking for her scheduled, fumbling for rulers, folders, books, old candy wrappers, and many other loose papers until she finally found it. Sent for the mail along with an introductory booklet of sorts. How wasn't used to the customs here yet. She fumbled through it, trying to find a map of some sort that might help her find her first class. She walked slowly as she had. So much so that Jim caught up with her and told her, "You won't be needing that." She looked at him and asked, "I won't?" "No, truth is it's really outdated, so it isn't much help. But I almost forgot. I'm supposed to give you this." He handed her a map of the premises. As she thought, there were more buildings to it, including boys' and girls' dorms. The introductory paper definitely didn't say anything about that. In fact, just as Jim had said, she couldn't remember anything from it that resembled this. Yes?" Jim asked. "Am I at the right school?" He stared at her. Well, actually, she couldn't see his eyes, so she couldn't say for sure that he was staring at her, but it felt like he was. He said, "You said your name is How, right?" "Yes." He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his pocket, smoothed it out, and looked it over. He said, "Yep, you're on the list. This is the right place." That's affirming. Really? He showed it to her. It wasn't anything fancy, definitely not a formal form, but it was a list of names. It went, yeah, there's a list of names. Alice, Cleo, Daiachi, Emily, How, Joy, Karai, Mei, Sumi, and Taya. Her name was indeed there. Strange that all of the students' names were just written on a piece of paper in a canoeer's pocket. Or maybe it was wrong for her to assume he was working. She asked him, "Do you work at the school?" "Yeah." "Are you a teacher?" "Not really. I'm more like a guardian, if that makes sense." It didn't to How, but she didn't ask. He told her, "Now go on. Meet your classmates in the hotel room." Sorry, not the hotel room. "Meet your classmates in the homeroom, or wherever they are." Yep, this is extremely formal. And it won't come up until later, I think not until chapter 2 or 3. But this piece of dialogue here that I wrote just kind of randomly, like, I feel like it half cursed the entire book, because I immediately made Jim not a teacher, but Jim was the only character I had like halfway designed while writing this first draft for the contest. So like then when it came to like, okay, so who had to teach the classes? You'll see. You'll see. I'm telling you, it was actually a problem. What did he mean, wherever they are? If it was time for homeroom, then they should all be in the homeroom. In her old school, if you were late, they'd give you a stern speech and then drop you a grade. Oh heavens. How didn't argue. She walked up the wooden steps towards her new school. And that was the end of chapter 1.